My parents had me, 16-year-old female, and my sister, 14-year-old female. We lost our dad a few years ago. My mom has heavily favored my sister since she was born, to the point she has raised my sister to be a pretty unpleasant person to be around, at least for me. Dad noticed it and called mom out, and at some point they did therapy where apparently it came to light that the grandmother she named me after was a person my mom had a lot of resentment toward. Why she named me after her then, I will never truly know. She claimed not to realize it at the time, but she at least has some resentment toward me based on that. She also had some postpartum depression when I was born and claimed the early months with me were a very dark time. Whenever we fight, she takes my sister's side regardless of what happens. If my sister takes food off my plate, she won't get in trouble. If I yell at her for it, I get punished. If I take food off my sister's plate in return, I get punished. If my sister takes something from my room, nothing is said. But if I bang on her door after she locked it and try to get it back, I get punished for harassing my sister and making noise. When I tell my mom about these things happening, she says something about learning how to share, or my sister being the baby, or my sister needing more, so she tells me to let it go. My sister loves to gloat that mom loves her more. She has told me that mom has told her she loves her, but tolerates me. My sister told me that mom wishes I had died instead of dad. She told me they talk about that stuff. She also told me that after dad died, mom pulled all the money from my college savings and put it into hers. My sister also lies to mom and claims I did things when she feels like I didn't get in enough trouble recently. In June, she got me grounded for the whole month by breaking her laptop and claiming I had done it. She knew it would be believable because I resented mom for buying my sister a brand new gaming laptop while I had to buy a really cheap secondhand one myself with money for my birthday and Christmas. Mom didn't even let me say anything, and my sister gloated that mom will always believe her over me. It came to my mom's attention a few months ago that my sister is struggling in school in a couple of places, and she can't seem to catch back up easily. But I always had good grades. I could even graduate early in theory if my school offered that, but they don't. My mom is aware of this from past years, so she told me a couple of weeks ago that I need to start tutoring my sister before she gets into a hole she can't climb out of. I told my mom I won't help my sister. Mom told me I will, and it's my duty to help. I told her to spend money on a tutor for her favorite daughter because I won't do a thing to help either of them with this. I told her they don't deserve my help. Mom asked how I could put my sister's future at risk. I shrugged. Mom called me names and slammed the door when she left me. The tension is high because of this, and my sister is loving it. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tell your mom to eat a shoot sandwich. If you are in the US, you can actually take your GED at 16-year-old. I got mine at 17-year-old. Luckily, my dad's cousin was on the GA Board of Regents, so he greased the wheels for me. As soon as I took it and passed with the highest scores they had seen on a GED at the center where I took it, I enrolled in college, and that was the end of living in my dad's house. I never went back. I think you have to get parental permission, but if you put it like, hey, I can go to college now and be out of your house, your mom might go for it. Meanwhile, I'm sending healing and the light of protection. Best wishes, not the idiot. Comment 2, not the idiot. Instead of telling your mom it's about favoritism, tell your mom that you aren't a good teacher and that your sister deserves the best and that you don't want to be responsible for her grades because you know that the dynamic between you isn't conducive to learning. And then don't do it because it's shitty. This is the hogwash she can lap up because it suits the narrative she already carries, right? Not a good truth, but a believable one for her. Hold on, hun. In a few short years, you will be able to grab your college fund and hopefully a scholarship and bug out of there fast. Do so. You deserve the best. Now for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. So a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. Remember how I said my sister was struggling in school? Well, turns out she wasn't just struggling, she was failing. And not just one class, but 3. Mom found out and lost it. She blamed me for not helping her, even though I told her I wouldn't. She said it was my fault for not being a good role model. Then my sister did something that really got to me. She stole my diary and read it out loud at the dinner table. All my private thoughts, my feelings about mom and her, everything was out there. Mom just laughed and he said I was being dramatic. But the worst part? My sister had written things in my diary, making it look like I was planning to do something terrible to her. Mom believed it, of course. She took away my phone and grounded me indefinitely. I was so angry I couldn't see straight, but I had to stay calm because I knew any reaction would just make things worse. I tried to explain to Mom that it was my sister's handwriting, not mine, but she wouldn't listen. She said I was just trying to cover up my evil plans. A few days later, my sister's grades came in, and she was in danger of being held back a year. Mom was furious and said it was all my fault for not helping her. She said I had ruined my sister's life and that I was a disgrace to the family. She even threatened to send me to live with our aunt, who was even stricter than Mom. But then something happened that I didn't expect. My sister's best friend came over and told Mom the truth. She said my sister had been cheating on her tests and homework, and that's why she was failing. She also said my sister had been bragging about how she could get away with anything because Mom would always take her side. Mom didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there. She had to face the fact that my sister wasn't the perfect daughter she thought she was. Mom didn't apologize to me, but she did start treating me a little better. She gave me my phone back and said I wasn't grounded anymore. But just when I thought things might be getting better, my sister did something else. She told Mom she was pregnant. Mom was shocked and didn't know what to do. She said it was my fault for not keeping a better eye on her. I couldn't believe it. How was it my fault that my sister got pregnant? Mom has been running around trying to figure out what to do. She's been talking to lawyers and doctors, trying to figure out the best course of action. She's been so busy with my sister that she hasn't had time to bother me, which is a relief. But I can't help but feel like I'm living in a nightmare. My sister is still gloating, saying that now she'll get even more attention from Mom. And Mom is still blaming me for everything, even though it's not my fault. I'm just trying to keep my head down and get through the next 2 years until I can go to college and get away from all this. But it's hard when every day brings a new drama and a new reason for Mom to blame me for something. Thanks for reading. My friend's boyfriend trashes my living room after I help him find her, so I kick him out and change the locks to teach him a lesson about gratitude and boundaries. This is so stupid. I feel like I'm in high school again. I, 34-year-old female, have a friend named Summer, also 34-year-old female, who is a free spirit. In high school, she got sent home multiple times for going to class barefoot. She dropped out of college and hitchhiked to Mexico one summer without telling anyone where she was going. She forgets to pay her phone bill, so she is occasionally unreachable. I know that sounds like a lot, and it will sound like even more by the end of this, but we have been friends since we were 10. I don't care that she is a mess. I love her. We are in this for the long haul. Summer's boyfriend, Will, is the opposite of her, and I had hoped he would mellow out her wild side. You know how Summer forgets to pay her phone bill? Well, apparently, she did it again. I found out when Will called me Friday morning while I was at work. He said he was having trouble locating Summer. I said, "Yep, that's Summer for you. If you get a hold of her, please tell her to call me. Best of luck." Then I hung up, thinking nothing of it. Will called me again and demanded to know where Summer is. I truthfully said that I have no idea, but I will call her parents for him and see if they know. I went to do exactly that, but Will called me again before I could. I answered, and it was the same question but angrier. Where the heck is my girlfriend? I will spare you the suspense. This went on for quite some time. Absolutely no clue why Will was convinced I know where Summer is, but I told him exactly when and where I last saw her, and that she disappears like this routinely, which he definitely knows. They have been together for a year. I used the plainest language possible, but Will just wouldn't relent. He called me about 50 times. I put it on silent at first, but by the 51st time, I had had enough. I answered and said, "Bro, stop blowing up my phone. I don't know where Summer is, and I will block you if I have to. You are going to get me fired." Then I turned my phone off. Today, Summer called me. I was expecting some form of explanation, but she opened with, "I'm handing the phone to Will. He wants an apology." I stopped her and said, "Apology for what?" She said, "For saying that he blew up your phone." To which I replied, "He did blow up my phone, and I was at work too. Maybe I shouldn't have threatened to block, but he didn't get the point the first 50 times I said it calmly." Summer said, "Just apologize because he is really pissed, and here's where I'm probably in the wrong. No to all of that. I'm not apologizing because her milquetoast boyfriend, who is basically the human equivalent of a dry ham sandwich, is on some ego trip." I said that but nicer, and she hung up on me. Now I'm thinking I should have sucked it up rather than jeopardize 2 decades of friendship. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Forget the long haul with Summer. She knows how she is and cannot possibly profess incredulity that you would tire of what is generally understood as him blowing you up. She demanding an apology for him, please. She bolted, lame, immature, irresponsible, tiresome. If she hadn't done this yet again, then he wouldn't have felt the need to track her down. She's obviously flighty and flaky, Unreliable, cheating on him, whatever. Why would you in any fashion deal with someone so self-centered? Comment 2. Not the idiot, but he's not a dry ham sandwich. Dry ham sandwiches are unpleasant but harmless. Someone who calls you literally 50 times is not harmless. There's something wrong with him. To protect your sanity, your job, and your well-being, keep your distance from this relationship while it's happening. Be prepared to pick up the pieces when they break up. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this mess. So, after Summer hung up on me, I thought that was the end of it. But no, life had more in store. The next day, I got a call from Summer's mom. She was in tears, saying Summer and Will had a huge fight and Summer had taken off again. This time, she left a note saying she needed space and wouldn't be contacting anyone for a while. Her mom was worried sick, and guess who she thought could find her? Me, of course. I felt a knot in my stomach. I should have seen this coming. Summer's always been like a hurricane, leaving chaos in her wake, and I'm the one who gets to clean up. I promised her mom I'd do my best to find her. I started calling around, asking friends if they'd seen her, checking places she might go to clear her head. Nothing. Then in a twist I didn't see coming, Will showed up at my doorstep. He looked like a wreck, eyes red, hair a mess. He apologized for blowing up my phone and begged me to help him find Summer. He said he couldn't live without her. I wanted to slam the door in his face for all the trouble he'd caused, but I saw something in his eyes that made me pause. Desperation. I let him in, against my better judgment. We sat at my kitchen table and he spilled everything. The fight they had was about money. Summer had taken a chunk out of their savings for some spiritual retreat without telling him. He felt betrayed and they argued. He admitted he might have overreacted, but he was worried about their future. I listened, feeling a mix of anger and pity. I told him I'd help, but only because I wanted to make sure Summer was safe. We spent the whole day searching, calling, and driving around. As the sun set, we got a tip from one of Summer's friends that she might be at this secluded beach she loved. We found her there, staring out at the ocean. The reunion was complicated. There were tears, apologies, and a lot of silence. Summer said she needed time to think, and Will agreed to give her space. They went their separate ways that evening, and I was left feeling like I'd just watched a bad soap opera unfold in real life. But here's where I made my big mistake. In a moment of weakness, I told Will he could crash on my couch until things settled down. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I felt responsible, or maybe I was just too tired to argue. It was a decision I'd come to regret. The next day, I woke up to find my living room trashed. Will, in a drunken stupor, had gone through my liquor cabinet and made a mess of my place. He was passed out on the couch, surrounded by broken glass and spilled drinks. I was furious. I should have thrown him out right then and there, but instead, I cleaned up the mess while he slept off his hangover. When he finally woke up, he had the nerve to ask for breakfast. I wanted to scream at him, but I didn't. I made him coffee and told him he needed to leave. He apologized, looking pathetic, and I felt a pang of something. Pity maybe, or just exhaustion. I told him we all make mistakes and that he should focus on fixing things with Summer. He left and I was alone with my thoughts. I felt weak for letting him off the hook, for not standing up for myself. But then I realized that maybe this was the wake-up call Will needed. Maybe, in some twisted way, this whole ordeal would help him grow up. As for me, I was done being the middleman in their drama. I called Summer later that day, told her what happened, and made it clear I was stepping back. She understood, or at least she said she did. We ended the call on an okay note, but things felt different. I guess that's just how it goes sometimes. Thanks for hearing me out. My wife fires our babysitter for saving our son and tries to sabotage my job, so I expose the family conspiracy and make them all apologize publicly. Hello, Reddit. I have just downloaded Reddit because my niece said I should post this story to the Am I the Idiot board, so here I am. I am not very good with technology, so forgive me, but I'll probably be messing this whole post up. So basically, here's what happened. My wife and I hired our babysitter, who we've been going to for years. We have 2 sons and a daughter, and we've been hiring her since my oldest son was a baby, though it was mostly her mom looking after the baby while she was helping, so we gave her a couple of dollars for that. She is now 16 years old and can look after the kids all on her own, and my oldest 2 love her. My youngest is only 7 months old, so I'm not sure he really gets it yet, but he seems relatively happy when he's with her. This Friday, my kids' daycare has been closed for renovations, and Daisy, our babysitter, has kindly offered to take care of them after school from 3:30 to 6 p.m. I get home from work at 6, and my wife gets home at 6:30. However, I got home early from work at 5:30. When I got home, I found my wife yelling at Daisy while Daisy was just sobbing and apologizing. I asked my wife what was going on, and all she did was just start yelling that Daisy had cost us a bunch of money. My first thought was that she'd broken something, but my wife wasn't telling me what it was. She told Daisy she wouldn't be paying her for her time and to get the FCK out of our house and never come back or she'd call the police. Daisy then ran out crying, and I left my wife to calm down while I comforted my kids. They were all crying in a different room while my wife yelled at Daisy. When everything had calmed down, I got the full story from my wife. So here's what happened. My mother had been looking after the kids until 3:30 while we were at work. This was Daisy's first time looking after my youngest son, though we knew we could trust her with the babies since she looked after my daughter alone when she was a baby. Something important that you should know is that my youngest son has breath-holding episodes, which occur when he gets frustrated or is in pain, and he will just hold his breath. To stop them, you just have to blow on the baby, or they will just snap out of it on their own. They're completely normal and relatively safe in babies. However, the episodes can sometimes cause passing out and blueness, and it's normal. He usually wakes up within a few seconds. To cut a long story short, my mom forgot to tell Daisy what to do if that happens. And when my son passed out, Daisy panicked and called 911, and then my wife. My wife is now angry that Daisy called 911 for nothing and has now wasted our money on an ambulance ride. My wife and I are now arguing because I think Daisy did the right thing, but my wife doesn't. Yesterday, we got into a heated argument. We both said some hurtful stuff, and she is now staying with her mother for a few days while she thinks over my priorities in the relationship. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. My mom forgot to tell Daisy what to do if that happens. And when my son passed out, Daisy panicked and called 911. Of course she'd do that. She totally did the right thing. She then called your wife, also the right thing. Your wife shouted, swore at, and made a 16-year-old kid cry who would have already had a bad scare about your son. That's just not okay on any level. Daisy needs to be paid for her time, and your wife needs to apologize to her. Why she's entrenching her position now she knows Daisy didn't even know your son did. That is really puzzling. Sounds like you've lost a good sitter too. Comment 2, OMG, your wife is completely out of line. I was a licensed childcare provider and a developmental specialist with degrees in education, 25 years of experience, and a mother myself. And I would have called the EMTs right away. As a parent, the last thing I want is a 16-year-old non-medical professional to decide if my blue-faced child is going to be okay or not. Did the babysitter even know about the problem before she agreed to care? You really did the babysitter wrong, in my opinion. She's going to be hesitant to babysit for anyone, I'll bet. Not the idiot now for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Things have escalated since then. After my wife stormed off to her mother's, I thought I'd have some peace to sort things out. But life had other plans. The next day, I got a call from my boss saying there had been a complaint about me leaving work early. Turns out, my wife had called my workplace in a fit of rage, claiming it was unprofessional of me to sneak out early. She'd never done anything like this before, and it felt like a punch in the gut. My boss, knowing my work ethic, let it slide. But the warning was clear. No more early departures. I was fuming but held it in. I didn't want to make things worse, especially with my wife already at her mother's. I decided to focus on the kids who were still shaken up by the whole Daisy incident. But then the hospital bill for the ambulance arrived, and it was more than we could afford. My wife called, and instead of discussing it, she blamed me for not backing her up with Daisy, saying this was all my fault. I couldn't believe it. I was being walked all over and I did nothing, just apologized and said we'd figure it out. The next day, my mother-in-law showed up unannounced. She had a bone to pick with me, saying I was too soft on Daisy and that I should support my wife's decisions. She even suggested that I should pay the hospital bill myself since I was the one siding with the babysitter. I was at a loss for words. I felt like everyone was against me, and I was just taking it. But then, the soap opera level event happened. My oldest son, who had overheard the conversation, blurted out that he had seen Grandma, my mother, slip something into Daisy's bag that day. My heart sank. I confronted my mother, and after some pressing, she admitted she had planted her expensive bracelet in Daisy's bag, hoping to teach her a lesson about responsibility. She thought Daisy would find it and return it, proving her trustworthiness. Instead, it had backfired spectacularly. I was livid. My own mother had set this chaos in motion. I told her she needed to come clean to my wife and Daisy. She reluctantly agreed. When my wife heard the truth, she was in shock. She realized her mistake and how her actions had hurt Daisy, who was innocent all along. My wife and I had a long talk. She apologized for overreacting and for dragging my workplace into our personal issues. We decided to apologize to Daisy together and offered to pay her for the time she was with our kids, plus a little extra for the trouble. Daisy was hesitant, but accepted our apology. She was grateful that we believed in her innocence. The aftermath was a mix of relief and tension. My wife and I were on speaking terms again, but things were far from normal. We agreed to go to couples counseling to work through our communication issues. My mother was deeply ashamed of her actions and promised to make it up to everyone, especially Daisy. Just when I thought we could breathe again, my oldest son confessed that he had been the one who had told his grandmother about Daisy's supposed lack of responsibility, which had prompted her to test Daisy in the first place. He felt guilty and was afraid of being punished. I assured him we'd work through it as a family. It's been pretty up and down of emotions, and I'm still processing it all. But at least now there's a sense of closure, and we're taking steps to mend the rifts that have formed. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.